Hey guys, welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles! Resolve. In the last episode, we pursued Mr. Drebber, and we actually found his workshop due to the nice investigation work we had done before. And now we're here, we had a look around, and there seems to be a deduction by Mr. Sholmes up in the air. And we are going to pursue that, of course. Alright, so let's go.
After all, it is a great detective's civic duty to teach Scotland Yard the finer points of the trade.
Well, Inspector Gregson seems delighted with the idea anyway.
Ah ha 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 ha!
Sorry.
Oh, you deflected the inspector's glare with such fortitude there, Mr. Sholmes. Well done.
You're too kind, my dear madam. I hereby dedicate this great deduction to you. Kindly stand just there, Mr. Sato.
Oh, yes, I'd be delighted.
So, shall we begin? Once again, Sherlock Sholmes is proud to present his logic and reasoning spectacular.
The Great Deduction. The game is afoot. Topic 1. Flipped furniture.
It's plain to see that this room is in complete disarray. The bed, the table and the chairs, the lamp, everything is upside down. Almost as if every item in the room had until recently been happily positioned on the ceiling, before falling straight down onto the floor. Every item in
the room was on the ceiling? Are you suggesting that?
Indeed, the key here is gravity. It would appear that technology has at last succeeded in freeing us from the great pull of the Earth. For the gravity in this room was reversed and then suddenly restored to normality.
Goodness!
The inverted furniture clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business. I quite understand your skepticism, Mr. Sato. I too was incredulous at first. However, my conviction in my analysis was cemented when I observed this. An anti-gravity device, almost identical to one that featured in a dream of mine only the other day, in fact.
But then why does it have a clock on it?
A most relevant question indeed. That is a timing device that controls when the gravity direction will switch. There was clearly a requirement for the engineer to be able to restore normal gravity automatically, and the commotion we heard earlier from the other side of the door was the moment that restoration occurred. Yes, the reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the anti-gravity device. So you see, we need look no further to explain the state in which we now find this room. The direction in which gravity acted here was reversed by Mr. Drebber, before being restored to normality in an automatic fashion sometime later by the timer device. I have witnessed precisely the scene in a dream once I had when I fell out of bed.
Because gravity was reversed. Yeah, sure. Topic 2. Missing engineer.
Now, let us consider the next conundrum. What was our engineer friend's aim? Indubitably, the greatest clue we have to explain his actions is above our heads.
Yes, how is it possible that there are footprints all the way up there on the ceiling?
A question whose answer will lead us neatly to the truth, my dear madam. The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby skylight. Of course, Drebber's aim was singular, to escape. However, there is but one way into this room, excepting the skylight, that is.
Oh.
By inverting the gravity in here, Drebber was able to fall conveniently to the ceiling and make his escape via the otherwise inaccessible skylight, leaving those footprints behind on the way.
But the ceiling is here very high, Mr. Sholmes. If the gravity reversal was sudden, wouldn't Mr. Drebber have fallen up to the ceiling rather violently?
Falling up is both scientifically and philosophically a rather interesting concept, I feel. But the man was cornered with nowhere to run, so escape through the skylight was his only option. You may recall that I found this in the room earlier, which I believe offers a solution.
Oh, the rope?
To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope? By anchoring one end to the wall, the man was able to lower himself safely to the ceiling. Which explains how Drebber was able to escape this room before our arrival. He reversed the pull of gravity and fled via the skylight. And personally, I should very much like to reverse the pull of gravity again now, just for fun.
Escaped via the skylight.
Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this topsy-turvy puzzle.
She's completely spellbound. Mr. Sholmes, there's just one thing that troubles me.
I would expect nothing less. You're destined to be troubled by just one thing for the rest of your life.
The thing is such a thing actually possible? An anti-gravity device, I mean?
I would say that with man's current scientific knowledge at the turn of the 20th century, it's no more possible than instantaneous kinesis.
But your whole deduction hinges on it.
Ah, but my dear fellow, when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. However improbable it may seem. It's a marvelous line, wouldn't you agree? One of my more enduring pearls of wisdom.
Just by the way, the thing that you just said, what was it exactly? It was when you eliminate the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. This line here, oftentimes is something said in all of Ace Attorney games. So,
I had Iris come up with the exact phrasing. My original was clumsy.
Yes, I have a feeling I've read it in something that Mr. Sato lent me once.
Objection!
Actually, there is one other thing, Mr. Sholmes.
Ah, the spell's broken at last.
The rope you found was on the floor, wasn't it?
Indeed it was, in lonely corners near the wall.
But if Mr. Drebber had used it to escape in the way you described, wouldn't it still be tied to the wall?
Mysteries inevitably unravel in the end, as I think you'll find 2 ropes. And as evidence of such, you need only look at the mystery we faced in this room, now skillfully unraveled.
That argument is as circular as the coils of rope.
I think perhaps we might need to give Mr. Sholmes the usual little helping hand. I'm sure with some minor corrections, the great detective's great deduction will lead us to the truth.
Yes, you're right. And we must do it quickly before Enoch Drebber gets too far away. If you're ready,
then let us resume. Sherlock Holmes' logic and reasoning spectacular.
course correction. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Topic 1, flip furniture.
It's plain to see that this room is in complete disarray. The bed, the table and the chairs, the lamp, everything is upside down. Almost as if every item in the room had until recently been happily positioned on the ceiling before falling straight down on the floor. Every item in the room
was on the ceiling? Or are you suggesting that?
Indeed, the key here is gravity. It would appear that technology has at last succeeded in freeing us from the great pull of the Earth. For the gravity in this room was reversed and then suddenly restored to normality.
Goodness!
The inverted furniture clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business.
To think gravity could have been reversed in this very room, I find the whole idea utterly enthralling. Only Mr. Sholmes could conceive such explanation.
But the man himself admitted it was a scientific impossibility, so...
Yes, you're quite right. We must completely discount the idea at once.
Oh, that's unusually merciless of you, Mr. Sato.
When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains must be the truth. The great detective himself said so, didn't he?
While refusing to part with his dreams of anti-gravity devices.
Yes, I suppose so.
Well, let's see if examining the topsy-turvy scene a little more closely reveals some proof that shows exactly what the gravity in this room was or wasn't doing. Alright, so let's have a look then. So, what is this? Okay, so this is already a hint that... But we'll have a look at everything, so... There is nothing. Inverted furniture. This is all inverted furniture. Let's have a look at the inverted furniture first.
All the furniture in here is very conspicuously upside down, certainly.
Yes, it does immediately put you in mind of some strange quirk of gravity, I admit.
Ah, could it be that a mini whirlwind passed through here, do you think?
I'm not sure that's much more plausible than Mr. Sholmes' explanation.
Oh dear, saying the first thing that comes into your head isn't the way forward here, it seems.
Well, that was to be suspected, right? This is all inverted furniture, all inverted furniture. What about the safe? The large safe. That is also something that is quite peculiar, isn't it? So let's have a look at the safe. Ah, look, Mr. Sato. When everything seems to be upside down in here, the safe is conspicuously the right way up. Have you noticed?
Yes, that's true. But look more closely at the safe's feet.
Ah, that's a lot of very large bolts fixing it to the floor. Think before you speak. That's what you wanted to say, isn't it? I really put my foot in my mouth there.
I certainly didn't say that.
Well, unfortunate, but we still have the vase here. And it's upright, so, Well, I wasn't expecting to find a pretty bunch of flowers in here, that's for sure.
Oh, look at that!
I know, that slender little vase looks like it's about to topple at any moment, but the flowers are thriving. Somehow it makes you think of the fragility of life, wouldn't you say?
To be honest, Mr. Naruto, something else about it made a rather deep impression of me.
On me? Okay, so let's present that. The upright vase. The upright vase clearly reveals the truth about the part gravity played in this whole business.
Upon my word, Mr. Naruto, you have surpassed yourself by completely turning my argument on its head. Trying to impress your assistant here, perhaps?
No one is trying to steal your spotlight here, Mr. Sholmes. Trust me.
As you rightly say, though it appears at first glance that all the furniture in the room is upside down, this unassuming slender vase is standing keenly to attention. And unlike the large safe, there is nothing affixing it to the floor.
And it's the exception that breaks the rule.
In short, much as it pains me, the gravity in this room was never inverted at all.
My deepest sympathies for your loss. Oh, poor Mr. Sholmes.
But the show must go on, so let us continue with our deductions. Now that we know this contrivance is not in fact an anti-gravity device, there remains but one other possibility.
You don't say.
Someone deliberately turned over every piece of furniture in here.
Which might sound obvious, but leaves one mystery very much unsolved. Namely, why would anyone choose to do that?
Quite, and naturally there's an explanation. Yes, the reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the anti-gravity device.
He's absolutely determined that this device must have something to do with it, isn't he?
I'm afraid the lure of an exciting scientific explanation is too strong.
Well, there's no doubt that somebody did this. Somebody turned all the furniture over. So whoever it was must have had a reason.
I'm afraid nothing comes to mind at all, though.
Well, let's look around and see if the answer presents itself. Alright, so we will have a look at the device first, of course. We've already established that the gravity wasn't actually reversed in here, haven't we? In other words, this isn't an anti-gravity device at all.
Which makes me very curious to know what sort of device it is. But I think for now it's clear that we're looking for an answer elsewhere.
Uh-huh. Alright, so what could be the answer then? Aha! There we go. Is that everything? Yep. Seems like this is the only thing left. Safe combination. Look, there's something written on the underside of this armchair.
Oh yes, safe 432582.
Safe? As in safe and secure?
As in secure lockable box, I think.
Admittedly more likely.
Well, there's a large safe bolted on the floor on the other side of the room, so yes.
So you mean this number would let us open it?
I wonder why it's written here, though.
That is a very good question, but we're going to present that, of course. The safe combination. Yes, the reason why everything in here has been turned upside down is because of the safe combination.
Precisely. I believe, Mr. Naruhodo, that you had a very similar experience once, did you not?
Yes, last year. When I bought a lottery ticket and noted the ticket number down on the inside cover of a book just in case.
That's it, for people are forgetful souls at heart and always make a written note of important information.
Just keeping the ticket itself safe would be more insensible, I think.
And what, pray, happened next, Mr. Naruhodo?
When the day of the draw came round, I'd forgotten which book I'd written the number in and had to turn my room upside down to find it.
That's it, for people are forgetful souls at heart and always forget where they've noted things down.
But if you always note things in the same place.
I actually won the second prize, you know. But I couldn't remember which magazine I'd slipped the ticket into, so I had to...
Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo, but I believe you've proved my point now. Which is that a very similar scenario has clearly unfolded in this room.
Finding himself requiring access to the safe, the occupant of this room needed the combination code. He remembered that he'd written it on the underside of a piece of furniture, but forgotten which one.
Leading to the state in which we now find the room. Yes, Mr. Drebber overturned all the furniture in here, in a desperate hurry, to locate the combination code that would unlock the safe.
To find the safe combination. Solved! Let's get to the missing engineer.
Now, let us consider the next conundrum. What was our engineer friend's aim? Indubitably, the greatest clue we have to explain his actions is above our heads. Yes,
Yes, how is it possible that there are footprints all the way up there on the ceiling?
a question whose answer will lead us neatly to the truth, my dear madam. The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby skylight.
Well, if a change in the direction of gravity can't explain it, then how did those footprints get there?
Yes, I feel as though that particular mystery has just become even harder to solve.
I can't think of any other way to explain it at all. Oh, life was so much simpler in those halcyon days when gravity could be reversed.
It was a minute ago, and those halcyon days never existed in the first place.
Well, I suppose we must simply put our faith in Mr. Sholmes and absorb the area in more detail.
Putting our faith in Mr. Sholmes is what gets us into these situations in the first place. Alright, let's have a look at the balloon. This is a gas balloon, isn't it? It's tiny, but it does seem to be a real balloon.
Yes, I think you're right. I think it's helium that's keeping it up.
A green gas balloon. Why does that seem to ring a bell with me?
If you can see, there are footprints on the balloon too. Look!
Oh yes, surely that's a clue, isn't it? Though, what it tells us isn't. What it tells us, I'm not sure. Are there footprints here? Ah, there's a shoe, so that explains everything. But we are going to have a look around nevertheless, because we want to be thorough. So we can also check the skylight. We're gonna do that. Looks like these are the only windows in the room. In other words, if you wanted to escape without using the door, the skylights would be the only way.
Yes, that's true. But even so...
And right next to the only escape route, we noticed some telltale footprints.
Nevertheless, as we've said many times now, gravity can't explain how they got there.
The powerful springs on the soles of the man's shoes could.
Have you been having strange dreams as well, like Mr. Shaw's?
Okay. So, we already had a look at the balloon, but there's a shoe up here. Let's have a look at the shoe. It's hard to believe, but there's a shoe up there, look!
Oh yes, and there are more footprints on this little balloon too. Perhaps the shoe was thrown up there and became lodged, do you think?
If so, then judging from the number of footprints, it must have been thrown up there several times. Why would anyone be throwing shoes up at the ceiling though?
Oh dear, that's beyond me, I'm afraid.
Okay, so let's present the shoe. The reason there are footprints on the ceiling is because of the nearby shoe.
And on closer inspection, there are clearly footprints all over the balloon as well. In other words, the aim was never the skylight at all, but the balloon.
But for what purpose?
A green balloon. That seems somewhat familiar data.
Was a piece of green balloon's envelope that Mr. Netherwood and Iris found at the scene.
And inside the green balloon that Master Gotts claims he saw above the stage when the incident occurred was the second birdcage, the crux of the whole instantaneous kinesis deception.
You mean to say...
If we assume the balloon in here is a model of the one used on the day, there is a strong possibility something may be concealed inside it. Something our absconder was desperate to retrieve before making a hasty getaway.
But the balloon's out of reach.
Hence why they resorted to a projectile, namely the shoe. Most probably Drebber intended to tear a hole in the envelope by assailing it with his shoe. However, his efforts were thwarted when the shoe itself became a prisoner of this lofty heights.
Oh dear, we desperately need to examine that balloon. If only there was some way we could see inside.
You may recall that I found this in the room earlier, which I believe offers a solution.
Oh, the rope.
To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this rope?
Mr. Shaw's has managed to bring the deduction back to the road.
Alright, I have to admit, that was clever. So we just throw the rope up to the balloon, then pull it down to us on the ground?
Which is much easier said than done, I feel. And could take us a very long time as well.
True, perhaps we need a more surefire method. In fact, we already have one, of course, don't we? Yeah, we have the crossbow.
Take that!
To reach the intended destination, what better tool than this crossbow? By the way, that was something new because I don't recall ever having to show evidence during a dance of deduction. That's a cool little twist. Sorry for the interruption. Let's get going.
That was found at the scene, in fact.
And in all likelihood belongs to Mr. Drebber.
If the man had only brought it away with him that day, he could have avoided losing his shoe at such a critical time as this. So, shall we? Your curiosity is deeply stirred, no doubt, my dear fellows. What is it that Enoch Drebber has hidden inside that balloon?
What the? A waxwork?
Indeed it is, a waxwork hid inside a metal mask. A mask that is shut tight and fastened with a strong and quite impenetrable lock.
So we can't see the face inside, that means.
Just a moment, this is the head of a waxwork model? Does that mean... Oh goodness!
You see if you've joined the dots, Mr. Sato. Excellent.
Of course, a headless waxwork model. The case of the abducted Madame Tussauds model that you'd largely solved. It was only the head of the killer that was still missing.
Indeed it was. But I believe Madame Tussauds will now have to settle her sizable account with me. This, as you have now surmised, is that of the infamous professor.
Yes. But why is it here?
This conclusively confirms my suspicions. The man responsible for stealing the professor from Madame Tussauds and returning it, sans tête, earlier today was none other than Enoch Drebber.
This is incredible. Professor Harebrain's case and the waxwork abduction they're inextricably linked by Enoch Drebber's workshop. The waxwork head has been entered into the court record. Waxwork head, the head of the Professor Waxwork that was stolen from the Madame Tussauds special exhibit. Ooh.
Well, it appears our logical pleasure cruise has come to an end, my dear fellows. All that remains is, yes, to speak with the architect of this adventure.
The architect?
You mean Mr. Drebber?
As it seems quite impossible that he escaped via one of the skylights. Obviously the man must still be here in the room.
What?
And his location should be abundantly clear. If you simply reflect on the journey we've made together during this deduction.
Enoch Drebber is right here, somewhere in this room?
So, Mr. Naruhodo, will you do the honors?
Yes, of course. Mr. Drebber's hiding place must be... It must be the safe. I'm pretty sure that it's the safe. So let's talk about the wardrobe first. If you need to hide, there's no better place than a wardrobe. I stayed firmly by that. Ah, yes, you had some experience of that yourself a year ago, didn't you? We'll find him in there, mark my words. He'll be curled up in a ball, trembling and hungry. In fact, my own hand is trembling just thinking about making the discovery. Never mind, Mr. Naruhodo. He could be hiding somewhere else, you know. And he is hiding somewhere else, but... Can we all talk about Skylight again? Personally, I still think he might have escaped via one of those skylights. But you heard what Mr. Sholmes said. The man must still be here in the room. I'm afraid your opinion might put you at loggerheads with the great detective. Mr. Sato, sometimes a man must stand up for what he believes in and fight. Oh, well in that case, I'll leave you to it. Okay, we're not gonna present that because I'm pretty sure that that is just not the case. What about the cupboard? This looks to be a cupboard of cups and saucers and the like. Ah, an ingenious hiding place. Oh, is it? Well, when you say cupboard, you automatically think of cups and saucers, don't you? And the clever engineer knows that, so he knows you'd never look for him in there because he's not crockery. Though sadly, it just seemed to be full of only crockery. Yeah, that's not the solution to this problem. It is the large safe. It is the large safe. Let's talk about it first. Look at all that mess in front of the safe. Yes, plans and accounting ledgers. Almost as if somebody was in a hurry to empty the contents of the safe, in fact. Take that! Okay. Large safe. Before we gained access to this back room, we heard noises from in here.
Which tells us that the engineer was still in the building at that point in time.
He was in fact searching for the combination to his safe.
And pressed for time, made no attempt to right the furniture that he overturned in the process. From which we can deduce that his search for the combination happened very recently indeed. In summary, Mr. Enoch Drebber is at this very moment inside the safe. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this topsy-turvy puzzle.
Conclusion, inside the safe. Solved.
Deduction complete.
Elementary.
So, Mr. Naruhodo, I think perhaps it's time we ended this game of hide and seek, don't you?
By opening the safe, you mean?
What else?
Let's see, the combination was 1432582. I knew that. Alright then, here goes. There he is. You found me.
Right then, sir. Mr. Enoch Drebber, I presume?
Well guys, we have reached the half-hour mark, and I'm as curious as you to find out what Mr. Drebber has to say. But we'll have to find out in the next episode of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Resolve. See you then.